last 2 years. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, let me welcome Toastmaster Michael Ciaradita as the moderator for our next year.
Barbara Jordan once stated, "It is the reason and not passion which must guide our deliberations, guide our debate, and guide our decision." Fellow Toastmasters, debaters, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the Great Debate Championship Quarterfinals 2. For our second debate, we have Aim High Toastmasters Club versus Active Minds Toastmasters Club. Let's cheer for them. The proposition, for this debate or topic is resolve that television is the leading cause of violence in today's society. I repeat, resolve that television is the leading cause of violence in today's society. The speaking sequence are as follows. Note that the timings for constructive speeches is 3 minutes, while the cross-examination is 2 minutes. And this is the speaking order. Judges, please note. Debaters, please stand and be recognized as I call your names. The captain of the affirmative team from Aim High Toastmasters Club, Toastmaster Jeremy Van Ika. And his teammates, we have Toastmaster Faten Nosing. Toastmaster Abdul Rahman Al. On the left side, the captain of the negative team from Active Minds Toastmasters Club, we have Toastmaster Sinan. And his teammates, Toastmaster Alina Tato. And Toastmaster Moaz Honor. This will be your speaking area, and you are not required to stay or to stand on one place. So you can use this, occupy the entire space. Terms used in the proposition were defined and agreed by the debaters. Isn't it?
Yes.
Isn't it? All right. Debaters were briefed on the proper code of conduct. The timing rules are as follows. The bell will ring at 30 seconds before your assigned time and will then ring continuously like this once your time is done. We have our assigned timers seated at the front, Toastmaster Irene Marcos. Any protests are to be addressed to the Chief Judge only, and our Chief Judge is none other than TTM, Don Prados. I'm sorry. Colin Powell once said, "Great leaders are almost always great simplifiers who can cut through argument, debate, and doubt to offer a solution everybody can understand." With this in mind, let the presentation of arguments begin. May I welcome the captain of the affirmative team, Toastmaster Jeremy Van Ika. And your timer starts now.
We stand before you, ladies and gentlemen, utterly convinced of the resolution that we are discussing today. The resolution we are discussing is television is the leading cause of violence in today's society. Our teams have agreed on the definitions that will be used for this debate. Television is a device with a screen for receiving television signals. The leading is the most important chief or principal. Cause is the producer of an effect. Violence is an intense force that causes damage. Today's society is the world post-1940s. Please note, ladies and gentlemen, the definitions of cause and of violence. Our position is that television is the root and the immediate cause of violence in today's society. We will be presenting research from various prestigious institutions and academic journals, such as the Department of Justice, Pediatrics Journal, Journal of Marriage and Family, the Journal of Applied Sociology, to support our viewpoint. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be presenting evidence to demonstrate that television is the root cause of significant family breakdown throughout the world. My teammate Abdul Fatan will be speaking to the effects of television on the subconscious. My teammate Abdul Rahman will be speaking to the sheer volume of violence on television and the impact that by definition will have on us. Ladies and gentlemen, in regards to television as the cause of family breakdown throughout today's society, let there be no doubt. Consider with me the high volume of the sexual content on television. Consider with me, ladies and gentlemen, just how much monitoring and censoring a parent has to do in order to keep their children from being exposed to all of this. Consider with me also, ladies and gentlemen, the impact that television has had on the modern family lifestyle. I have studies here with me, ladies and gentlemen, demonstrating the truths of this. Certainly, Kubi found that many people feel that they have to compete with television shows and television celebrities for the attention of other members of their family. Will my wife someday be able to compete with Jessica Biel? I don't think so. All of these things, ladies and gentlemen, please consider them. Ladies and gentlemen, you can see that our definitions of violence is a broad one. Consider that violence is something that is an intense force that causes damage, and the damage that it has caused to the family has been astronomical. Ladies and gentlemen, let there be no doubt about it. Television is the root cause of violence in today's society. I yield
will be cross-examined by the team captain from the negative team, Toastmaster Shinan. Shinan, your timer starts now.
My worthy opponent, you mentioned about sexual content in television, and you connected. Do you think the sexual content do you think because sexual content they have problems in the family, and divorce rate is because of that?
Absolutely. Yes, certainly. I have one study
Okay,
here.
that's my
This comes
question.
from,
My next question is, you
this is
think...
from Pediatric
Yeah, that's
Journal.
okay.
Very well.
My next question is, you mentioned about the competition that the couples have to go through in order to please your partner. Do you think that is one of the chief reasons of divorce or family problems?
I think it's definitely a cause of family breakdown. All these
Do you
things
think it's a
taken into
leading cause
consideration.
of family problems?
Not necessarily, but it is a leading
That-
cause of family
That's my
breakdown.
question. That's my question. And do you think the problems in the family is the leading cause of violence?
I'd refer
I
you
just
to the
want to
definition.
know,
No. We have to go
I
back to the
want to
definition of
know-
violence at this
I
point.
just want to
Violence
know-
is an intense force that causes damage.
My question is,
Breakdown.
do you think family problem is the leading cause of violence?
I would refer you once again to the definition of violence.
I
As we
asked
agreed,
a
violence is
question,
an
a
intense
straightforward
force that causes
question. You
damage.
just have to say yes or no. I asked a
You're putting me in
straightforward
a position where I cannot
I
answer.
asked a straightforward question, audience and judges. You just have to answer yes or no.
One more time, please.
Do you think the family problems is one of the leading cause of violence?
Yes.
So, thank you.
Toastmaster Shinan, you have 3 minutes for your constructive speech. Your timer starts now.
My dear leading opponents, judges, and friends, good evening.
Good evening.
I agree with the definition put forward by my opponent, and I absolutely disagree that television is the leading cause of violence. Just let me start with analyzing these points. He said sexual content is the chief reason, or one of the chief reasons of family problems. Let me tell you stats. Kuwait, divorce rate of Kuwait is 50%, according to Kuwait Times, one of the highest in the world. And sexual content is not allowed in Kuwait TV. It's absolutely censored. Still, they have family problems here. Secondly, it said competition with celebrities is one of the chief problems in a family. I absolutely disagree with that too. I have researched, and my partners have researched, to show that one of the main reasons of family issue is bad parenting rather than TV. Now, let me go to my speech. Today, I will present why we believe that TV is not the leading cause of violence. I will explain why TV is not the leading cause of physical violence. My partner Alina will explain why TV is not the leading cause of emotional violence. And my partner Muaz will explain why violence is a natural part of life. We have 7 continents, right? We have Asia, Africa, Europe, South America, North America, and Australia. And I did research on each continent to find out what is the leading cause of violence. I have studies with me. Let me explain to you. My first study is based on Asia. It's conducted by International Crisis Group, which is a part of Red Cross. They mentioned in the report that the leading cause of violence in Asia is poverty. Next, I focused on Africa to find out what is the leading cause of violence in Africa. And I found out from the World Bank report that leading cause of violence in Africa is poverty. Then I searched in Europe, and European Union reported that leading cause of violence in Europe is poverty. In South America, according to International Journal of Conflict, leading cause is poverty. In Australia, according to Australian immigration stats, leading cause is lack of security, homelessness. Means the leading cause of violence is poverty, not TV. And we all know TV won't cause poverty. Thank you.
By the second affirmative from 8I. Affirmative team, we have Toastmaster Paten. Paten.
Good
You
evening,
have 2
my
minutes to cross-examine. Timer starts.
Good evening, my fellow opponent. You've mentioned the fact that one of the main reasons in family breakdown is bad parenting, correct?
One of the guests.
Yeah.
One of the
Based
guests.
on what? Based on what?
Based on main research, based on WHO research, which is kind of everyone knows.
Okay. Isn't bad parenting inclusive of not monitoring your children when they watch TV? Hence, TV is already included in the bad parenting, so it's kind of TV as well, and not.
There are a lot of parents in the world. Basically, majority of the parents doesn't have a TV because we have more poor people than rich.
Actually, even poor countries have high readership or viewership.
According to
of
my
TV.
research, there are more people in this world who have TV than I.
Okay, now it says, according to another research that says, for one thing, in the 1960s during the Great Depression, crime fell down, even though there was a Great Depression, high
Is that a
unemployment
question?
rate,
Is that a
high
question?
poverty.
Is that a question?
So,
Which
yes, basically, where is the basis that poverty negates television?
one? I didn't say poverty.
So you're saying, no, it's not television, it's poverty. First of all,
I think you
how
didn't hear
does
my
poverty not include television?
I think
Poor
you didn't
people
hear my
have-
speech. I didn't mention that. Judges and audience, please no. I think you didn't hear my speech. I didn't mention that.
How does, well, it says that poverty is, even poor people have television. And the thing is, even with.
I can show you the stats that there are a lot of poor people who doesn't have even a meal, one-time meal.
People in Africa still watch football and they still cheer for people who
Majority
are in
of-
Latin
One
America.
question,
They have
please,
television.
please.
So go ahead. Where is the essence, that fact that poverty negates TV watching?
That's not based on my speech. My speech was poverty is the main cause of violence, and we are discussing. Our topic is
But even-
the leading cause of violence, not what's the cause of violence. Please no.
Okay. So you
I
raised
said it's not the leading cause.
Okay.
Your timer starts.
Good evening, my fellow Toastmasters and judges. Good evening. Today I'm reaffirming the statement that television is the leading cause of violence in today's society. Television manipulates our subconscious from the early stages of our life. Then it manipulates our culture, and lastly, it manipulates our own actions that are based on our subconscious. From the father of behavior psychology, Albert Bandura, on a study done in 1961, then it was repeated again and again, in which the results were found consistent. 3 groups of children under the age of 6 were shown a video of a child beating what we call a boo-boo doll, basically an inflated doll. The doll was passive, and the children, by watching another child beating a doll, imitated that action. The 3 groups, the one that went unchecked had an increased violence. The one that were rewarded also maintained the violent action. And even the one that were punished created frustration and waited for the parent to be gone. Most studies show that once you learn something and store it in your subconscious, you cannot unlearn it. All reward and punishment does, it controls the performance of the violence, not the subconscious and the knowledge of the violence in your subconscious. So you say, free will, culture will show them that no, you don't have to be violent. Well, what if culture is advertising violence? What if through Breaking Bad or other TV programs where it shows that being someone who flips the table in front of your partner will give you authority? It will make you kind of like a god. It will make you feel respected. Go forward, look around you during the Arab Spring. It was a domino effect, wasn't it? From one culture's socioeconomic status to another one with a completely different socioeconomic status, they all went on a spring of violent revolution. And the only major role that satellite broadcasting news played is advertising it as a patriotic act and other forms like it's something glorious. Violence was the reaction that everybody resorted to. And please don't tell me they were taught how to use a weapon by their parents. Most of you haven't even taught your child how to cuss and curse. We know that. We are all fighting that battle. They have been taught by others. We know in this current society we're not the only ones who are raising our children. It is television. And it's the one thing that all of us can relate to it. You talk about poverty, you talk about guns, not all of you can relate to it. But when I talk about television, it's inside each and every one of us houses. That is what makes it the most important one and the most effective one because it's the most accessible one. Back to you.
Toastmaster Alina from the negative. Toastmaster Alina, you have 2 minutes to cross-examine Toastmaster. The timer starts.
You mentioned violent revolutions. Can you define, please, the term?
Define the term of violence.
Violent revolutions.
Any intense revolution that causes damage.
So you suggest that every single children that watches TV becomes a violent person as an adult?
It's stored into their subconscious, and when they're manipulated into actually producing that subconscious act, yes, they will become eventually.
So you imply in this that actually everybody that watches television as a child will become
I'm not implying that.
has the propensity of becoming a violent person.
Well, it's stored in the subconscious, so unless you learn something, you cannot unlearn it. The violent content of television is extremely high that it's impossible to avoid it.
Right. Okay. You said that each and every one family in the world has television. Are you sure about that?
I did not say each and every one of
You
us.
said
I said
each
each
and
and
every
everyone in this room. I did not say. I said in my cross-examination to my partner, I said even poor people have access to television. But when I spoke, I was talking to this particular audience. I wasn't talking about the world.
So the particular audience
This
is
is a sample
relevant
from the
towards
world.
our...
This is a sample. This audience is a sample from the world.
If we don't know them personally, so maybe they don't have. Right. And can you tell me, please, which culture advertised violence?
Talk about every culture around the world will almost portray violence as a virtue in one sense or the other. I mean, even superheroes at some point have been portrayed as violent.
Can you give me an example, please?
Sure, I can give you an example. For example, talk about Batman, Superman, those Martin ones. They didn't get the job done if it wasn't for
Do you
punching.
agree that they are the good guys?
Well, it's archetype that has been advertised. I'm not talking personally. Here, the debate is about what's out there, not about me. So it's not
No,
about.
you agree that they are the good guys.
Well,
There's
my-
certain examples.
it's
as good
archetype that's being
guys.
advertised as a good guy. Whether I believe it or not, it's out there.
So as long as the
That's what I'm talking
children learn and that they
judges, could you use a mic or speak a little louder? It's
I'll speak
difficult to
loud.
hear.
Honorable
Timer starts now.
Honorable judges, worthy opponents, audience, good evening. My teammate Chinan showed that television is not the leading cause of physical violence. I am going to show that television is not the leading cause of emotional violence. According to the World Report on Violence and Health, no single factor explains why one person and not another behaves in a violent manner. So the very roots of violence were found on different levels and coming from different factors, which enhance the propensity of an individual to become a violent person. Firstly, there is the individual level, which is connected to biological factors. That can be neurological or hormonal imbalances or even a head injury, but especially education, psychological or personality disorders, substance abuse, being abused, aggressive behavior. Secondly, it is the relationship with family, friends, and partners, because children being abused, harsh punishment on children, lack of affection, dysfunctional families, divorce, bad parenting, and lastly, there is violence within communities and societies, which is caused by poverty, by low social capital, high population density, and societal norms. Societal norms encourage social and educational inequalities. So therefore, the World Health Organization's extensive study has found that all these factors lead to violence and not the TV. And the violence is the spread of hatred, severe negative emotions, frustration. So as you see, ladies and gentlemen, it is obvious that television is not the leading cause of violence. Thank you.
By Toastmaster Abdul Rahman. Toastmaster Abdul Rahman, you have 2 minutes to present.
My worthy opponent, you said that the roots of violence comes from the different factors, such as you mentioned aggressiveness, dysfunctional family. Where do all of these things appear?
Within society,
Doesn't it also appear on television?
they do.
Okay.
They're a reflection of what happens in reality.
Thank you so much. You proved my point. Please note that she proved my point, that it's reflected in TV, and TV is what we watch. Therefore, we are imitating these people. That's why it's causing even more violence, because we're watching people become more violent, therefore making us more violent. Okay. You talked about violence is because of hatred, frustration. Is hatred and frustration not portrayed on television?
Well, it's always a good portrait, of course.
Based on the content you said, you asked all the questions based on your content,
Yes.
and you answered all my questions.
But what is portrayed on television is not a leading cause.
Well, yes, of course, it's a leading cause because, like my teammate Fatima said, it's the most accessible thing that people have in their houses. Almost everybody, okay, maybe almost everybody here has a TV. When I see someone,
What's the question, please?
my question is, when I see people being violent on TV, doesn't that give me an idea of how to be violent with other people?
No, not necessarily.
So where does the idea of being
It
violent come
is
from?
your choice.
Where does the idea of violence being come from when I'm born and I'm into the world? How do I know that the idea of
Have you
violence?
ever about Jung and subconscious, elective subconscious?
And
We are
the
born with
subconscious.
it.
So,
We are
so
born
you
with it.
agree with Fatima that TV comes into your subconscious because of the violence on TV, and you get that
Violence
violence from your
exists
subconscious.
From our birth. And my
So you're born
Yes.
violent? Is that what
Yes.
you're saying? You're
Absolutely.
born violent.
Absolutely.
Please note that she says
Yes.
that you are born violent. Good afternoon. My worthy opponent says that people are born violent. I would like to see statistics to that, and they have not proven any statistics that you are born violent. And I told her, and she said that you get all these factors of violence, such as aggression and dysfunctional family, all these stuff are the premise of TV shows. It's all about the drama and the killings and the aggressiveness and the dysfunctional families. This is what we're thirsty to watch on television and on drama TV shows. I'm going to be talking about the insane amount of violent content on TV and the cause of violence because TV was introduced into our society. Unfortunately, a lot of TV content is violent content. There are 3 to 5 violent acts per hour on TV. Children's Saturday morning shows portray 20 to 25 violent acts per hour. And psychologist Albert Bandura, which Fatin talked about, says that children learn in one of two ways, either through trial and error or either through imitating and observing their social environment. Having said that, adolescents will have witnessed 60,000 simulated murders and 200,000 violent acts because of TV. Statistics show that in TV shows, 73% of the time the good guy is the most violent one, but he always goes unpunished and is justified. Therefore, and who do we all want to become? We all want to become like the good guy. Think about shows like The Walking Dead, CSI, Criminal Minds, Dexter. The good guy kills people and it looks really cool when he does it. This is showing kids that it's heroic to take out a gun and kill someone. Now, more than 20 long-term studies have been done by the National Institute of Mental Health, and they found that TV does lead to violence. I don't have time, obviously, to go through all 20 studies, but for example, one study, they took a group of 6 to 10-year-olds, and they studied them over a 15-year period. And they found that those who watched more TV committed more violence. This is a longitudinal study, 15 years. Therefore, it gives considerable strength to our resolution that TV is the leading cause of violence. Let's go into the introduction of TV into today's society. When TV was introduced in the United States in 1945, the homicide rates increased by 93%. When TV was introduced in Canada in 1945, the homicide rate was increased by 92%. In South Africa, TV was banned from 1945 to 1974. In this period of time, despite the war on racism that was going on, the homicide rate decreased by 7% because there was no TV in South Africa. But when TV was introduced in South Africa in 1974, the homicide rate increased by 130%. Therefore, it is very obvious that TV is the leading cause of violence because of the insane amount of violent content on TV, because kids are imitating this violent content, because of the longitudinal studies that I have mentioned, and because of the doubling in homicide rates, because TV was introduced into these societies. I rest my case.
Thank you, Abdul Rahman, for your speech. But first of all, you said that we don't have proof that, or statistics that prove that we are born violent. Where you didn't hear probably what Shinan summarized at the beginning. I'm going in my constructive speech to tell you about this. So let's not now. It's part of my constructive speech. It's part of my constructive speech. Now, this is one point. The other point I want to tell you, you're saying that children are watching violent content, the killing people is always pretty cool. Based on what did you make all these assumptions and those statistics? What question to you? What were the lifestyles for the people and the children were under the study? Were their families divorced? Did they have a family?
Actually, I have a great answer. They considered these variables such as economic status, such as alcohol consumption, such as drug consumption, and they took all these variables.
And did the people watch under good condition, under good surrounding conditions?
Yes,
would violent become violent?
Do you think that the National
Answer my question with yes or no.
Do you think the National Institute of Mental Health won't consider this?
Sorry, say it
Do you
again.
think the National Institute of Mental Health won't put them in an environment where it's a good environment for testing?
What does the study tell? The study tell about aggressiveness or tell about violence?
What's your question?
I'm asking you, the study that you're referring, talks
Violence.
about violence or aggressiveness?
Yes, violence.
Because I've read the study and it talks about aggressiveness.
What study is that? What study are you
It's the
referring
same one, the MIHN, right?
to? No, it's not MIHN. It's National Institute of Mental Health.
NIMH, yes. Yes.
Okay. You
It
said
talks about
MI,
it.
you said MI.
Anyway, how do you comment on this, that in the United States, the TV show rates have been doubled. Almost 99% is the television access rate to the home, and the crime rate is decreasing 50% in the last 20 years.
What's
In
your
the United
question?
States. The FBI.
What's your
How do you comment on
Is
this?
your question
How do you
the FBI?
comment on this?
What's
How do you
your
comment on this? That in the United States, where the TV penetration increased, the
I don't
crime
understand
rate
your
reduced. The crime is used. You are saying that
Based on the
in the
statistics
United
I
States. Debate moderator, distinguished judges, my worthy opponents, fellow Toastmasters, and dear guests. Good evening. Good evening. My worthy opponents here are, yes, referring to the television every time, but we always need to distinguish between two things. There is a cause, a problem, and there is a root cause. Whenever they are referring to the television, they are again getting back that there is a root cause, either poverty, or either family problems, or maybe it's natural, as I'm going to tell you shortly. I have studies from the FBI test that the television access rate to the homes in the United States had reached 99%. So almost every home there is a television. And the crime rate in the last 20 years has decreased 50%. Now let me start by reminding you with what we have done so far as the negative team. My teammate Chinan has proved to you that television is not the leading cause of physical violence. Alina proved to you that television is not the leading cause of emotional violence. And I am going to tell you that violence is a natural part of life, and television, it's just a man-made tool. First, let me start by saying that the most violent act in today's society, post-1940s, is the World War I. World War I is marked by massive death. World War I is marked by uses of 2 nuclear bombs. What did it happen? Did it happen because of the television? Absolutely not. It happens because of the human's greed, which is part of human nature. Second, violence naturally occurs in humans. I have a study done by a Canadian professor in the University of Montreal. This study examined 35 children, and this study tells that we are all born violent. However, we learn as we grow how to control this violence. The study tells that by the age of 18 months, we are all biting, screaming, scratching in order to express for our needs. And then our families and the people surrounding us will teach us how to control those violence tendencies and how to go in the right side. Third, ladies and gentlemen, violence exists in nature. Nature has intense force that causes damage. It has multiple forms. It can come in earthquake, it can come in tsunami, it can come in any of other forms. Did the nature watch the television before it hits? Absolutely not. For those reasons, ladies and gentlemen, we firmly believe that television is not the leading cause of violence. Television is just a man-made tool. And we believe that violence is coming in nature because of the examples I gave. And now, ready for the cross-examination by the negative team.
Point of order, the speaker should refrain from yelling and be respectful at all times over their opponent. Toastmaster Jeremy, you have 2 minutes to cross-examine. Toastmaster Moaz.
Thank you. Mr. Moaz, what are the last 3 words of our resolution?
Sorry?
What are the last 3 words of our resolution?
Cause violence to today's society.
In today's society, thank you. You just spoke to nature. Is nature a part of today's society?
Absolutely. We are talking about the time period here. We're not talking about nature.
No.
Today's
Isn't it correct
society.
that you just finished saying, sir, that nature does not watch television, so this doesn't apply to nature? Didn't you just say that?
I'm saying that, but nature causes violence. Do you agree with me or not? When we are talking about today's society, we are referring to the time period. We are not referring whether it is a man or it's a nature, right? When we define nature, correct me or not, nature causes violence. And you said violence is an intense force that causes damage. So how come this doesn't fit with our definition?
Here's the point though. You use the word nature. Are you speaking about nature or human nature?
I'm using about nature.
Human, actual nature
Nature,
outside
actual
the
nature,
world?
tsunami.
Mother
Yes,
nature?
tsunami is a kind of violence.
Okay, here's where I'm going with this. So tell me, but the resolution is in today's society. That is the context of the resolution. Does nature exist in today's society?
Absolutely. When you
Is
see the
nature a part
Filipino
of-
people dying and suffering from the tsunami, this is
What is the
violence.
definition of
When you
today's
are
society?
seeing-
What is
when you are
the
seeing
definition? What is the definition of, thank you. you.
Yeah, we
Let the
already
judges
agreed.
note
No,
that
we
you...
already agreed. I'm with the definition. I'm working
Thank you,
with the
thank you,
definition.
excellent. Let the judges please note this. Thank you. You also said, sir, you pointed to World War I. You said this was prior to...
So World War II.
World War II then.
Because
this
it's
was prior to the
post-1914.
advent. Thank you, thank you. So you're talking about not today's society, but you're talking about yesterday's society, correct?
Today's society, as per the definitions, is in the world post-1940s.
Post-1940s, post the decade of 1940s.
Yes, post. And,
Yes.
and
And
World War
this
II took
point,
place
so
in
you're conceding this
1946.
point then.
What's wrong with it?
Of permitting things. Going to make a summary. You have 3 minutes.
Almost 45 minutes, this debate began. It began with me speaking to how television has caused significant damage to the family unit throughout the world. And this conforms directly with the definition of violence that was agreed upon by both of our teams. Ladies and gentlemen, also, after that, my teammate Fatan spoke to how how television affects our subconscious. From there, my teammate Abdul Rahman also spoke to, additionally, how television, the sheer numbers of the crimes that are committed on television. All of these factors were spoken to. Over the course of this debate, we have rebutted and refuted many of the charges that were brought before us. We spoke to how television has an interactive relationship with other causes of violence throughout the world. We spoke to how that is not accounted for in many of the UN statistics, how television interacts and projects causes of violence throughout the world. It has a multi-systemic effect. It is not just one aspect of the system, ladies and gentlemen, it is the system. Ladies and gentlemen, let's remember that the access to television throughout the world today is profound. My teammate Abdul Rahman spoke also to the 16,000 simulated murders that take place in television, or that the average person sees by the time they turn 18. He spoke to the 200,000 violent acts that we see on television by the time that we turn 18. The other team would have us believe that this does not have an impact on today's violence. It seems, ladies and gentlemen, we are not just desensitized to violence, but it seems that we are also desensitized to the impact that television violence has on us. The other team's position presupposes that we have a strong degree of ability to define ourselves, that somehow we can watch 16,000 simulated murders before we turn 18, and this does not affect us. They would have you believe, ladies and gentlemen, that you can watch 200,000 violent acts by the time you turn 18, and this would not affect us. They have a profound degree of belief in our greatness and in our goodness, to believe that we do not have this level of impressionability. Ladies and gentlemen, let there be no doubt about this. Television is the leading cause of violence in today's society. Please join me once and for all in applauding to this truth that television is the leading cause of violence in today's society.
Will give the summary speech. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, audience, judges, and my fellow opponents. Sitting there, I was laughing at myself. I'll tell you why. Firstly, we are not talking here about whether television causes violence or not. I absolutely agree television causes violence. We are talking here whether it is the leading cause of violence. My dear fellows, the leading cause of violence, and my fellow opponent haven't produced even a single study to prove that it is the leading cause of violence. They only proved it causes violence. Secondly, I think my fellow opponent haven't read definition. According to our definition, violence, let me read it. It is an intense force that causes damage in today's society. We didn't say it's a man-made violence. We can absolutely use tsunami case or Katrina. It is a violence. Do anyone of here disagree that? We're not talking about man-made violence here. My dear fellow, you should read definition very carefully. Now, I, in my first speech, told you the leading cause of violence in Asia, Africa, Europe, South America, Australia. It's 5 out of 7 continents, my dear fellows. The leading cause in these continents is poverty. I proved it's poverty, not television. Television doesn't cause poverty. I excluded Antarctica and North America, but I included all other continents. And we are talking about today's society. Today's society, according to the definition, is post-140s. And post-140s includes all this continent, and the main leading cause of violence in all this continent is poverty, not television. So, we proved our point. I will repeat once again. Television may have causes violence. According to Abdurrahman studies, yes, absolutely agree with the studies, it causes violence, but it is not the leading cause of violence. Thank you.